The Christian walk isn't always a rose garden, right? And there are a lot of times when we're facing basically the thorns, right? We've got difficult times, hard times, painful times. Sometimes we're dealing with loss. Sometimes we're dealing with sickness. Sometimes we're dealing with straight out pain. Sometimes we're dealing with abuse. And in any one of those times, and in all of those times, it is natural to wonder where God is in all of that. I know I've been there. I'm sure you've been there. But let me encourage you today with a fantastic testimony how God took me from the thorn to the rose. Coming up in just a minute. Hi, I'm Pat Aquilon, God's Runner. I hope you find today's video to be encouraging and uplifting and touch your spirit. And I especially pray that if you're going through a hard time, if you're seeing a thorn at this point, that it will be turned into a rose like the testimony today. If you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button. Also consider hitting the subscribe button and the bell icon so that you would get notified of future videos upon this channel that are all being brought to the glory of God to lift you up, to encourage you, and to help you in your journey and your destiny with what God has for you. Pastor Miles Sweeney says that God is in everything. He either uses it or he causes it. And that's a very interesting approach to look at life, right? Because we know Romans 8:28 says that God works all things for the good. That doesn't say that he causes all things, right? But that he will use all things for the good. And sometimes that's very hard to fathom, get your mind around and hold on to, especially when you're in the middle of a very challenging situation. Graham Cook likes to talk about those challenging situations as problems that come up. And he has an amazing testimony where he talks about being excited when problems come because he knows that his God, our God, is going to come through with some kind of miracle, some kind of supernatural thing to fix the problem. So when a problem comes, he's excited about it because he knows God's coming right with it. You know, the devil may have meant it for evil, but God's going to mean it for good. The devil meant it for ashes, but God's going to make something beautiful out of it. The devil wanted you to get the thorns, but God's going to give you the rose. And I had a situation just similar to that. So let me set the stage for you. Diabetic, in 2019, coming into the summertime. Diabetic, at this point, I have lost 2 toes. First one was a total shock. Turned diabetic after being 40, and I didn't know any better. Learned the hard way. Well, I got a toe, I got a blister, got infected. By the time we realized what was going on, it had swollen up really bad. The infection got into the bone, and that means that it's adios. They amputated the toe. 6 years later, 2018, I'd gone on a men's retreat. I must have picked up something while I was there sharing with, in and out of guys that may have not have had the best of hygiene, but point is that I picked up an infection. I got a blister from all the walking, picked up an infection. It was a nasty one because I got home on Sunday night. Tuesday I was in the doctor's office, and Thursday I was in getting my toe amputated, and he said if it wasn't amputated then, I would have lost the whole foot. So that's 2018. Now we're moving into summer 2019. So just to set the stage so you understand what I know, what I'm thinking, what I'm seeing, what I'm looking at. We're in the middle of July. And in the middle of July in 2019, one of my toes, the middle toe on my left foot, which was different because the other 2 toes were on my right foot, it started swelling up, looking bad. It was all red, puffy. It had a blister on it. The blister got infected, and I knew that it was a problem. Definitely a thorn. Tried contacting my regular foot doctor who was on vacation. And in previous times when he was on vacation, his nurses would actually forward messages to him, and he would actually, respond at some point throughout the day while he was on vacation, which was quite amazing, honestly, considering he was on vacation. But this particular time, he was away for like 3 weeks, and nothing. I would call, they would say he's out. I would tell them what's wrong. I'd send them pictures, which I'd done in the past. Normally forwarded to him, wasn't forwarded to him. I found out later that the nurses had this don't contact him thing put in place, which was great for his vacation, but in a situation like mine, it was not. So we got to a point where the toe looked so bad, I knew I was going to lose the toe. We were told by the nurses that if it's as bad as I'm saying it is, go to the ER. All right, so I'm gonna go to the ER. I get in, the ER doctor says, yeah, you're gonna lose that foot. They check me into the hospital. Right after he said that, for about an hour, no lie, I was hopping mad. I've been doing what I was supposed to do, eating what I was supposed to eat, taking the medicine I'm supposed to take. My blood sugars were running decently. My A1C was running good. All this stuff was indicating that I shouldn't be having a problem, and here I sit. I was even contacting my doctor's office, trying to get in, trying to get seen so I could get antibiotics or do whatever prior to getting to this point where I was going to lose the toe. I had done it all right. I didn't do anything wrong. And here I lay in the emergency room. I know, the doctor knows, the nurses know, everybody knows I'm going to lose this toe. And I was mad. This was the thorn. For about an hour. God didn't say anything to me, just let me steam. My wife was kind of chilling in the corner. And after being pissed off for about an hour, I just said, okay, Lord, I'm going to stand on the fact that you work everything for the good, but I have no idea how this can be good. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't. I'm completely lost in this, but I've got to trust in you. So from that point forward, in the hospital, they moved me up to a room, and the nurses loved me because I was happy, I was bubbly, I prayed for people when I could, I was talking about, enjoying hopeful things, even with the loss of a toe. I was chipper and excited, and I actually had one nurse come into my room and said, I need to sit in this room for just a little bit because I have to go into another room where the person's being a real pill, and he just drains the energy out of me, so I need to charge up with the hope and love in this room. What a witness, right? What a witness. So, but also, during this time frame, I obviously get the on-call podiatrist doctor, Dr. Mark. Meet him for the first time. He looks at it. He says it's bad. I already knew it was bad. Our doctor knew it was bad. He said we're going to have to cut off the toe. I'm like, yeah, I know. And we scheduled the surgery. And the surgery was for the beginning part of August. I forget what date. It was like 2nd, 3rd, 4th, something like that. And so we went ahead, and he amputated the toe. After that, I had to go through, the normal process. I have to can't have weight bearing for like 6 weeks. I have to be off of it. You've got to keep it up. You've got to change the bandages when they tell you to. You've got to take the medicine. You've got to keep infection off. You've got to, just a bunch of stuff. And I was doing it all. I was doing it all exactly the way the doctor had. We had a knee scooter. So when I did move around to get to the bathroom or something, I used the knee scooter. Stayed completely off the foot. Okay. And it healed up. After that had healed up, the insurance company told me that I had to pick a doctor because they were not going to pay for 2 podiatrists. So I decided to switch to Dr. Mark. I was praying about it. I felt good about it. He was more accessible. So I was going to go ahead and switch to Dr. Mark. Interestingly enough, I was actually in surgery when a company wanted me to interview for a job. And I wound up getting the job, ironically, but I really thought I wasn't going to get the job because I had to postpone it because I was in surgery. That's a whole nother testimony. So I stay with Dr. Mark. Now, Thorn, total Thorn. Yes, I was chipper. Yes, I was happy. Yes, I was excited, but I still lost a toe. I still had to go through recovery. I still had to deal with the issues of walking around in the post-op shoe, and for a while afterwards, the slow healing because I'm diabetic. I had to deal with all the thorn issues while keeping my face smiling and happy the way God would want me to be. Okay, that was August on. I think I finally got out of the shoe in January, the post-op shoe in January. So it took a while. Now, God speaks to me September 26th, 2020. And there was a Peter Stevens, interesting guy. He shared once that when you get the call, God gives you a call, a destiny, a mission. The enemy is going to come right behind it and try and bring catastrophe, some sort of thorn, something to attack you. Because if he can stop you here, then it's end game, right? It's a win for him. Where later on, you're going to rise up theoretically in stature, power, faith, whatever. If you're continuing to walk with God, it's going to be even harder and harder and harder to take you down. So if he tries at the beginning, well, September 26th, I hear from God. October, let's see, 6th, I think it was, Wednesday, right around October 6th, Wednesday, I come down with a fever. It's a bad fever. I mean, like, we're taking medicine. I'm taking Tylenol and ibuprofen. I think I was taking Tylenol and ibuprofen, switching them back and off. It would take the fever down to about 100, 101, but it wouldn't take it away. When the medicine wore off, I was spiking back up to like 103, 104. My doctor thought it was COVID because we're in the middle of COVID at this point. So he sent me to get tested. That test came back negative. I didn't have COVID, but the fever continued. No matter what we were doing, the fever continued. Now, in the middle of this, my big toe on my right foot had like a blister or something and began to swell. So I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, this doesn't look good. I reach out to Dr. Mark. Dr. Mark's like, go immediately to the emergency room. Do not pass go, because now we're Friday afternoon. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. We need to get you in right away. Get you, around some people that can get you IV antibiotics and get you in, and hopefully and prayerfully we can save the toe. Not happy about this, but again, I'm off to the ER, and I get in the ER, and this time I wanted to be mad, but I knew better. I knew God wouldn't want me to be that way. So I'm being smiley. Inside, I'm still a little miffed about this, right? But I'm being smiling. The ER doctor looks at my foot and said, "Oh, this toe's got to go." They assign a doctor over your case. That doctor looked at it and said, "Oh, this has got to go." The endocrinologist, not endocrinologist, infectious disease specialist that came in, "Oh, this toe's got to go." Even Dr. Mark originally came in and said, "This doesn't look good." Now, and then he goes, in a situation like this, because you already lost 2 toes, now you're going to lose a big toe, because I had lost the 2nd and 4th, so I had the 1st, 3rd, and 5th. He said, in a situation like this, we usually have to take the whole front of the foot. Well, that didn't make me happy. I mean, I'm thinking thorn upon thorn upon thorn upon thorn. What's going on, God? But I remembered what Peter Stevens said about catastrophe coming. So I just started saying, I'm not losing my foot. And they're okay, whatever. So they take x-rays, and I had totally forgotten that back in like 2014, they put a bolt in my big toe, and they put the screw in because I do this clawing when I walk, and the clawing was making it so that it was rubbing wrong and not able to heal a blister that was on that toe. So they put the screw in, makes it so it won't bend, it just does this kind of thing, or this kind of thing. And with that bolt in there, the foot healed up. So now I go in to get admitted to the hospital because we're in the middle of COVID. They've got all these restrictions. You're only allowed to have one person in a room with you at any one time, besides, of course, their staff. And to add to all of that, because I was running a fever and they didn't know what was going on, they thought I might be COVID. So they did the more evasive test twice. An initial one that they do and test that hospital, a secondary one that they send off to another independent lab. Both of those eventually came back negative on Sunday, but here I am Friday into Saturday morning, and I find out that my wife can't even come in the room. I could talk to her on the phone, but it's not good. The funny thing is, the room was dark too. I know it had lights, but it just felt dark. I was trying to keep chipper. I was trying to keep up, but it was difficult. It was tough. I had a lot of really tough moments trying to keep my spirits up. Tried to talk to some of the staff, but because they were in and out so quickly, because if I did have COVID, they wanted to limit their exposure, I didn't actually get to talk very much. So we set all that up, right? So Saturday evening, so I went into the hospital on Friday. Friday night, my wife went, when they checked me in, they actually let her to the room initially, and then when she left, they wouldn't let her back in. So now I'm all by myself. very little human contact. And I get a call Saturday night. It's like, I don't know, 6, 7 o'clock at night, maybe even later, I don't know, because I kind of lost track of time, but I know it was Saturday. I get a call from Dr. Mark, and he tells me, listen, I've been praying. When he said that, I was like, I'm in. Whatever you feel like God's telling you, I trust you, I'm in. But of course, I wanted to hear the rest. He said, listen, I've been praying, and I really feel like the screw is the problem. I think what we need to do is, well, he issued 2 more tests like MRI and stuff, but I think we need to remove the screw. And after we remove the screw, clean out whatever's in there, and then see what happens. And worst case scenario, we would be removing the screw when we remove the foot anyway. The only difference is, we'd be doing it like 2 days later after we see what happens when we remove the screw. So this is, he said to me, he goes, this is kind of old school way of doing it. When we didn't have necessarily all the equipment, we'd say, well, let's take the screw out and see what happens, kind of thing. But the key was, he said he was praying. So he said, does this sound like a plan? I'm like, yeah. And he must have had to do, I don't know the whole story, but he must have had to do some convincing, because the next morning when the head doctor over my case came in, he said that, I understand your foot doctor's got some wild idea about your foot and surgery. And I said, yes, he's taking the screw out. But so now before the surgery, now we're to Sunday morning, I'm trying to stream services from anywhere. Church I was in wasn't running their service live. Church I used to be in New Jersey was running their service live. I couldn't get the stream to start. Pastor Miles Sweeney's church was running live. I couldn't get theirs to start. It would just keep crashing. No matter what I tried, it was crashing. That limited human contact, not able to see my wife, I had gotten to a moment where I'm like, okay, Lord, I just looked up and said, help. I can't take anymore. I just can't. Okay, I'm a social person. I'm at bottom. And so now for thorn upon thorn upon thorn upon thorn upon thorn, right? So within an hour, the feed started running so I could listen to the message. And the pastor that I've got to listen to from New Jersey, Pastor Scott Walsh, was speaking directly to me about exactly what I was going through and about trusting on God. He will see you through. Talking about bad things, good things, but if you focus on God, he will take you through no matter what. He's in it with you, kind of thing. Powerful message that was speaking to me. Also, the head doctor came in and told me that the COVID test came back. I do not have COVID. They were removing the what they call the no drip, I think it was, restriction, which means that I still am only limited to one person, but people could start coming back into the room. They didn't, when they came in the room previously, they would have on their scrubs. They would put on like this paper gown and then like another gown on top of that. They'd have a face mask, 2 masks underneath that, 1 or 2 layers of gloves. They didn't need to do all that extra stuff. I got to wind up talking to my nurse and the tech and stuff, and I found out that I was surrounded by believers. The nurse that I had when I came on, which was my nurse that night, that Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night, the tech that I had, the nurse that I had during the day, I started finding out that God had placed believers all around me, and I was just blown away, because the one nurse was telling me she prays over all of her patients. So I didn't even know it. God had surrounded me with warriors who were standing up, locking their shields, and praying and joining with me on this journey. Now, so I find out all of that. I'm finally able to see my wife. Monday morning rolls around. We have the surgery. I'm being, happy and excited and chipper. I'm being able to be a witness to people because I'm talking to them about God. Because I'm just finding out that I was surrounded by believers was really enough for me at that moment. But God wasn't done yet. I hadn't gotten to the rose yet. I've seen enough thorns at this point. Dr. Mark does the surgery. Fantastic job on the surgery. Gets the screw out, cleans everything up. They got to do like scraping or something and put antibiotics in there. He says the bone that was fused around the screw was good enough. I don't have to have any other type of thing in there to try and hold my foot together or anything. Surgery goes fantastically, and as soon as I come out, my fever breaks. I don't need to lose a toe. I don't need to lose a foot. All we had to do is have a screw come out. And Dr. Mark even told me, he said when they looked at the, maybe it wasn't when they looked at the x-ray, maybe when they finally got inside, he said that, when they put a screw in, they put it up and it becomes flush, right? It becomes flat. But what had happened was the screw had started being pushed out. My body was ejecting the screw. Talk about wild, right? My body's ejecting the screw. Anyway, Dr. Mark gets that out. We get all that cleaned up. Everything gets done, and I don't lose a toe. I don't lose my foot. And here's the awesome kicker. God didn't cause my loss of toe in 2019. Oh, he didn't lose the one in 2018 either. But in 2019, but what he did was he used that to connect me with Dr. Mark, who he would then, as a strong believer, be able to speak to. So in 2020, I wouldn't lose my toe or my foot or worse. And I remember telling God, I go, God, you've called me to run. And I know there are people that run with amputations, like legs missing and stuff. I won't be able to do that. I'm already struggling with excuses that my body wants to have, my mind wants to have, to not run. If we add this on that, it'd just be too much, and I'll give up. I know I will. I'm not that strong. I need you to come through here. And he did. Again, he set me up in 2019 by, he didn't cause the problem, but he used that to connect me with Dr. Mark. Dr. Mark was able to hear from God, and then Dr. Mark removed the screw, and I kept my toe and my foot. And I think it was 2 days later, I was out of surgery, and I was back home. My recovery time was quick because he only removed a screw and closed me back up. I didn't have the weeks and weeks of running around on a knee scooter with no weight bearing or anything like that. It was a completely different scenario because God took me from the Thorn of 2019 through the stem, knowing Dr. Mark and getting connected to him as a friend and a doctor, to the rose where God was going to miraculously save my foot. That is one heck of an awesome way that God was in it all. He didn't cause it, but he used it. If you're in a situation right now that's tough, it's hard, it's painful, it's hurtful, there's loss involved, there's all kinds of stuff going on, and it's difficult to see, know that no matter what, just like with me, when I was sitting in there and I was overwhelmed in the hospital and I said, help, just like that, just say, help, God, because he'll reveal to you that he's in it all. He has not left you, not forsaken you. He is in it, and he will reveal that to you, and you'll be able to see how he's using that situation for something. Just like Romans 8:28 says, for the good of those who love him. He will use that for good somehow, some way, no matter how hard it looks, no matter how bad it is. I was looking at losing a foot, a whole foot, or the front half of a foot. And from what I've seen of other people who have lost that, they wound up losing their foot and up to their knee. And here I was looking at that, and God said, no, I'm using something that seems bad and was bad and didn't get caused by God. I'm using it to do something miraculous and heal you here. I'm going to connect you with this Dr. Mark, who's one of mine. He's in the kingdom. He's an awesome man of God, and he is going to be my instrument that I will use to perform a miracle, take you from the thorn to the rose. So be encouraged today, no matter what you're going through, no matter how difficult, no matter how hard, no matter how much this thorn is really pricking at you, focus on God, call out to him for help, be connected with other believers, and God will take you from the thorn to the rose too, and you'll have a testimony as well. Hey, if you liked this video, consider hitting the like button and then maybe share this video on any of your social media stuff. Otherwise, until next time, thanks.